Hello, friends, and welcome to the PowHERful Podcast. I'm your host, AJ McCord. In this podcast, we introduce you to powerful women who are changing the game in and outside of their field of play. These are women's stories, women who happen to be doing things that many of us can only dream of, but the lessons and inspiration they share is universal. Welcome back, my PowHERful Pod squad. I am so excited for today's episode. Today, we have Brenna Huckaby. She is a Paralympic snowboarder. She is a mom. She is a founder of a media collective and just an all-around badass, hilarious individual that I can't wait for you to get to know. In this conversation, we talk about everything from how becoming a mom at 19 is something that impacted her life exponentially, how losing her leg at 15 years old had this Louisiana native on the snow on a mountain, and less than a year later moving across the country to pursue a career as a Paralympic snowboarder. She takes us inside her injury and all that it took to overcome it, and also reminded us how universal struggle and hard days can be, and the lessons that she shared about how she got through it, how she continues to get through it. Powerful is the right word for it. I cannot wait for you to hear this conversation. I am so excited to be joined by Brenna Huckaby for this episode of the PowHERful Podcast. She is a 3-time Paralympic gold medalist. She has won not one, but 2 ESPYs. She's also a 5-time world champion, a mom, a disability advocate, and one of the founders of Cultured, which is working to shift the narrative around para-sport and how we view Paralympic athletes. And Brenna, I am so excited to have you here. So thank you for being on this winter season of the PowHERful.
Yay! Thank you so much for having me. I am so excited to talk about all of those things that you listed.
And so much more. We're just giving a little tease here at the top. Okay, so first, I guess I want to start by introducing people to you who do not know your story. I have gotten to watch you in the Paralympics the last few rounds, and obviously we're in a non-Olympic Paralympic year, but you are one of the best snowboarders in the country, and you have the medals to prove it. So give us a little bit of a background of how some girl from Baton Rouge, Louisiana, who was a competitive gymnast, ended up as one of the best para-snowboarders in the country.
You know, honestly, that is such a valid question because it's a little bit of a Jamaican bobsled team situation there. But when I lost my leg from cancer, so that's how I lost my leg, my hospital, they took kids who lost mobility on a rehabilitation ski trip. They had this idea that if these kids, myself included, could ski down a literal mountain, then when they got home, they could tackle and conquer their figurative mountains of everyday life. And I had the privilege to go on that trip, but I didn't want to ski. No offense to skiers at all. I just thought snowboarding looked so much cooler.
Girl, same. Same. I did the same thing as a teenager.
Yep. And also it reminded me of a balance beam. But it also just looked so much cooler. But yeah, I went on this rehabilitation ski trip. I got to snowboard. I learned it's nothing like a balance beam. I
was going to say, from one former competitive gymnast to another who also learned to snowboard in their teens, nothing like it.
No, it's so hard. Even still today, I'm like, wow, you really thought having your feet fixed into one position was like gymnastics. Goofy.
Same.
Yeah, totally the same. High kicks for days. But yeah, that's how I learned to snowboard. I fell in love with it immediately, and about a year after that trip, I moved to Utah so that I could snowboard full time. And it was a little bit of a healing through cancer situation and using snowboarding as a tool for that. But also in the back of my mind, I thought it would be really cool to try and go to the Paralympics.
Okay, so I want to know, because like I said, I was also a competitive gymnast. I competed all the way through high school, and so I know that sort of passion of competitiveness, and I still am competitive in like my everyday life, and so it doesn't really surprise me that it didn't take you long to proverbially and and literally get up off the couch and find another way to utilize your competitiveness. But I think that it's one thing to be competitive, and it's another thing to be like, you were 15, right? 14, 15?
14, 15, yeah.
Yeah. To say like, hey, by the way, mom and dad, thanks for sending me on this journey. I'd also like to move to Utah. Like, how did that conversation work at 15?
Yeah, great question. So my parents, I love them to death. They have never been traditional, ever, with anything in life. And so when it came to learning to snowboard and deciding to make that move, my mom, first of all, she was on that original trip with me, and she was like, when you snowboard, I see that Brenna again. Like, I see that light and that fire in your eyes, and like, I will do anything to keep that there. That was like such a big aha moment for her. And then she was also like, selfishly, she's always wanted to live in the mountains. So she was like, this is a perfect opportunity for both of us. Like, I can help you pick up the pieces of your life, and I also get to live out a dream of mine to live in the mountains. And so my dad and my brothers, I have 2 older brothers, stayed in Louisiana, which was a challenge for sure. And then my mom and I moved to Utah. I finished high school and I snowboarded.
Wow. Okay, so then the next question is, how does it go? Like, what is the Paralympic process? How did you go from like being on a snowboard for the first time to a few years later becoming a world champion?
Yeah, great question. It's definitely different than Olympics, right? Because we have people that are becoming Paralympians usually became disabled later in life. So many of them didn't grow up doing their sport. They may have been an athlete in a different capacity, but like myself, I didn't grow up snowboarding. So there's 2 ways it can go. You can either pick it up really quickly and go through the ranks of competing nationally, getting onto a world circuit, doing well there, and then world championships, and then Paralympics, which is the route I ended up luckily being a part of. But also for a lot of people, it's really challenging and really hard. And the level in the Paralympics, even from going from a national to a World Cup, is huge. Like, that leap can feel almost impossible for a lot of people. So it all depends on timing and like the ability, maybe before you lost your leg, in athleticism. But yeah, that was really long-winded way of saying it looks different in different sports. And for snowboarding, I just thankfully picked it up really easily because of my gymnastics background. And then I think just timing, like, it was a really, less of a barrier to entry into the sport because it was pretty new. And so I just worked my butt off to kind of capitalize on that novelty of the sport.
So the other thing that I was reading about is from an article that I believe was published in 2023, and it was the Parachamps that you competed in Spain, and you competed with your snowboard leg hiked up so that your prosthetic was showing. And I think that like, I looked at a few different angles of that picture, and it was so powerful to see you embracing your prosthetic, and not just embracing it, but showing it off to the world. Can you describe, because again, I keep saying it, but like, I was a competitive gymnast. I know how much what your body looks like matters in that sport. So how did you, Brenna, personally manage, it's not easy. It's one thing to make the transition athletically. It's another thing to personally say, this is my life now. This is different. How did you work through that? And why was that picture at Parachamps so important?
Oh man, I've gone through different phases with acceptance in my body.
Yeah.
And it's funny, accepting my prosthetic leg in my everyday life was easier and a quicker process for me than showing off my prosthetic in my snowboarding gear. And a lot of that is because I started snowboarding because it gave me this freedom away from being seen as disabled. When I'm in my snowboarding gear, you visually can't see my leg. And then also when I'm riding, you really can't tell I have one leg. And most of the times I'm riding way better than most people on the mountain. So people are admiring that. And so to pull up my pants and to show that like I'm doing this on one leg, part of me felt like I was giving up the feeling of not being seen as disabled. And then it took 13 years of being an amputee for me to say, you know what? I'm proud that I can accomplish this with a disability. And like, I want all of y'all to see that and to know it and to like just celebrate what I and so many other snowboarders can do. And I feel like once I did that, I was reminded of the reason why I started snowboarding competitively. And it was to show kids who had lost mobility through cancer that like your life's going to look different than it did before, but it still can be really great and amazing. And that showing of my leg while snowboarding just put me back into like that mission and that why of showing other people with one leg, like life moves on and it can be way better than you thought.
And I think that is something that like so few, there's people who are going to be inspired, if you will, by your journey. And then there's so many, I don't think I can tell you one single person on this planet who hasn't had something about their body that is hard for them to accept. Mm-hmm. Why was it so important for you to be a voice in just that overarching, massively human feeling of trying to accept something about yourself that you cannot change?
Gosh, so I feel like when I first lost my leg and I first started social media, it was so much easier because it was easier and harder. It was easier because I knew that there weren't very many people out there sharing their stories, sharing their prosthetics, sharing their life with a disability. There wasn't very much representation. And it was easy for me to say, okay, I'm going to do that and I'm going to be that representation. Now, there's so many amputees and disabled people that are out there that are sharing their stories, sharing their lives, which is amazing. But now it's like I've kind of taken such a back seat that I forgot that like, oh wait, no, I have a voice in sharing these vulnerabilities and working through them. And so I think it's just reminding myself as much as possible that representation, while the fight is still inclusion, and to have a seat at that table, representation still matters, and to keep putting myself out there in those ways because I know that it's helping someone.
It's not just helping. Like, I've read the comments on even your recent posts, and I have had the time to read so many comments because I have watched your reels over and over again, because you're not just showing representation, you are finding humor and you are bringing joy to people's lives. And there are people in your comments who are like, hey, I'm a 4+ year amputee, and you were the first person that I found when I looked up what I can do now. And you're freaky. I mean, one of your most recent ones was joking about how if you had a nickel for every time someone asked you how you lost your leg, you'd be able to pay for the Salt Lake City ski patrollers' raise that they need so desperately. How have you just, like, what is it about you, Brenna Huckaby, the person, that has been able to embrace and transition throughout these different seasons of acceptance?
I don't know. Because here's my thing. I truly believe that we all go through periods in our lives, every single person, that is painful, that is hard, that feels impossible. And I want to like share and show that, like, if I can do it, you can do it, but also here's how. I don't want to say if I can do it, you can do it because, oh, poor pitiful me with one leg. It's more like, I know that you're also going through really tough stuff. And
hey, you can say it, girl. It is. It's tough shit.
It's tough shit. Like, I know that you're going through it. I'm going to kind of segue, and I'm so sorry. I'm ADHD. We're going to blame it on that. But one thing that I find just so important, well, it's gone. It's gone. I lost it.
This is ADHD. This is it.
It was so important too. What were we talking about before? Because it won't come back.
We were talking about just like how you as a human have this ability to navigate these different seasons of acceptance.
Yeah, and like we all have really, we all go through tough things. Oh, right. You can do it. If I can do it, you can do it. Not because poor pitiful me with one leg and, oh, I have 2 legs, so my life is so great. But one thing that I always say is, there are periods of my life that was way harder than cancer. And I draw from that pain and those things that I learned, and I apply it to what I've learned with having one leg. So I know when I'm sharing things, it's universal. Like you can apply it to your life, even if you've never had a disability, even if, whatever your hardest day is, it's applicable. And like, that's kind of where I pull from. I know that wasn't the most eloquent and a little bit
No,
everywhere,
it was
but
great. It was great. How did you develop that ability though? Like, was it something that you wished you'd seen? Was it your family? Like, where did that come from? How can people pull from that?
oh, therapy, mental health.
Girl, yes.
I think like I think I've always been searching for control in my life, and I feel like the best way to find control is through knowledge and insight. And I just I'm journaling, I have a therapist, and I just want to leave the world better than I found it. And for me, the best way I can do that right now in my life is through social media and sharing my stories. And that's not to say that that's the only way to, make big change, but I think, yeah, just trying to figure out what your superpower is and what your passion is in that moment and just doing it. Like, just do it.
Well, and one of the other ways, you're not just influencing and impacting the world at large, but your world at home is being impacted by the way your daughters get a chance to see the way you live. So tell me a little bit about your family and how going from, I mean, my gosh, your late teens were like a lot. You squeezed a whole lifetime into your late teens. So talk me through the journey of becoming a mother and now getting a chance to sort of just share this competitive lifestyle, but also a joyous lifestyle with your kiddos.
Yeah, so I got pregnant when I was 19. Total accident. I had actually been told by multiple doctors I was infertile. I was on birth control. We were just, in our eyes, doing everything right. And I found out I was pregnant at 19. I was 5 months along, and it was like, buckle up. That's kind of what I did. I decided I was going to do this because I didn't, based off of my infertility diagnosis, I didn't think I would ever have a chance to have a child later in life either. So it was really hard and really challenging, and honestly blacked out for like 6 years of it. My oldest is now 8, but it's paid off. All of that hard work has paid off because now I get to snowboard with my kids. They are the funniest. Anytime I go to a playground, my daughters, I have 2 now, my other one's 4, they'll run and they'll find other kids on the playground and they'll pull them over and be like, look, my mom has one leg. She had cancer and she snowboards now. It's a little embarrassing, but it's beautiful.
Oh my gosh. What does it feel like to have your daughters just be so proud? I mean, I can imagine I think it's hard as a parent I don't have any kids myself, but my friends who are parents, they say like, it means the world when your kid is proud of you. So what does that feel like to have your daughters pull these kiddos up and say, look at my mom?
I know. I wish I could feel, I do feel proud. I do feel proud. I think there's probably some things I need to work on because I constantly don't feel like enough for my kids. So when this happens and I see this, I just immediately go to, okay, that's great that you think that now, but later maybe you're going to think of all the other ways that I fell short. And I think that's probably more common than people realize. We just that beating ourselves up as parents and trying to be the best versions of ourselves that we could possibly be, even though it's so hard. But I'm trying to sit in the gratitude with it and to just like feel that, I don't know, that connection or that, I don't know what I would call it, but I do my best in trying to like enjoy it. But I do mentally kind of beat myself up and go, oh, you think that's cool now, but all I can harp on are the things I did wrong 10 minutes ago. But yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I think that I know like we're both competitive, like you're much better, much higher level competitive athlete than I ever was. But I know for those of us who compete athletically and particularly in sports that say that there's a perfect option, it is so hard to unlearn perfectionism. And I think that is like one of the things that I will have to remember and relearn and undo and try again for the rest of my life.
No, actually, same. I think it's been a New Year's resolution since I was 16.
Let's go. Just rinse and repeat.
Yeah. We'll get there. But that's great insight, because that is exactly what it is. It's this constant chasing of perfection. And I also have to rework that with snowboarding when I have a heat that didn't go as planned, and I can sit there and think of every tiny little fraction of a movement I could have done better. But the reality is, even if I did that, who knows what would have happened? It still might not have been that perfect run. So that's great insight.
Yeah. What is the thing that you are most excited about that you're working on right this moment? I mean, not like this this season of life. This season of life, what is getting you so excited?
There's a couple different things. I would say snowboarding. I am really hoping to not only go to the Paralympics 2026 in Milan. I have a big goal to get at least one gold medal that would put me as like the most gold medals in Paralympic snowboarding history, if I can do that, in Paralympic gold medals. So that's my push right now. And then I'm working on Cultured, which we kind of mentioned at the beginning, and that's a media collective just around changing the narrative around Paralympic sport, seeing Paralympians as badass athletes and not just an inspiration for simply existing.
Okay, so with 2026, obviously it's not a Paralympic year this year, but you still have a lot of events and competitions coming up. So walk me through what this winter, what this World Cup season looks like for you in order to set yourself up to make some history in 2026.
Yeah, so this season we have a few World Cup events. I'll be in Finland, Switzerland, Austria, Colorado, and Canada. And the big push, though, is World Championships, which is in March. And so my goal is to secure one, if not two. Those are big shoes to fill. World Championship gold medals. That would be super sick. But I don't know. It'll be a fight no matter what. So we'll see what happens.
And what disciplines are you going to be competing this season?
Great question. I do snowboard cross and banked slalom. So one event is 4 people on a course. The other event is solo with time.
If y'all have not seen border cross before, tune in. Because if you like anybody who likes, it is, I don't know how you guys stay straight and not smacking into each other. Like, it is one of the gnarliest. It's like, in fact, there was kayak cross in Paris this year for the first time. We had Evie Liebfarthon. She's a Team USA kayaker. She won silver in Paris. And she was telling us about the drops and just how chaotic it is. You have to make sure your equipment doesn't get tangled in your freaking neighbors while also going very fast.
Oh no, we definitely get tangled. It's just nature of the game is staying up. But we always say rubbing is racing. Like, you're going to hit. It's racing. But you just want to stay up for sure.
Yeah. As long as we stay vertical, we're doing just fine.
Then I'm happy. Yes, exactly.
Perfect. Okay, we cannot wait to watch you, to root you on in this World Cup season. It's going to be so much fun to watch.
Yeah, can't wait.
We got a chance to have Sarah Adams and a few other Paralympic athletes on in season 1. And when I tell you, they're like, anybody who doubts the badassery of Paralympic athletes doesn't know a Paralympic athlete, because it's not just, I think that's one of the things that is it's so hard to manage when people look at you and they say, wow, you have gone through something extraordinary, right? Something that not a lot of people have to navigate what you've navigated. And it's almost like it's putting you on a pedestal, but in a way that is separating. So it's almost this like, oh, that's cool that you did it, but like, how do I apply that to my life? Or like, so what are you guys trying to do with culture to break down that barrier so that we can look at an able-bodied person who's never had to go through cancer, who's never had to have an amputation, can look at a Paralympic athlete and say, I see myself in them. I want to connect with them. I want to watch that sport.
Wow, that's beautiful. I think for us right now is getting more of the athletes' voices involved. There, like you mentioned, there is that level of separation in the media, especially around Paralympians and just disabled people in general. But one thing I've noticed is a lot of the content and the media that goes, well, worldwide is very well seen. A lot of the times it's so heavily focused on that disability. And one thing I talk about a lot is it's obvious we went through something. Like, it's obvious I have one leg. Even if I was born with one leg, it's obvious I had to go through some shit to get here. But so I want to know, like, how did you get to the top of your sport? Like, how did you wake up every day, grind, be disciplined, work through pain? Like, what are the barriers? We've had people talking about just getting their sport into, like, a national championship. Like, how do you even get your sport sanctioned? Things that people wouldn't even know, myself included. I've been learning so much because there's no broadcasting of it. There's no just awareness of what's going on outside of the fact that Paralympians are disabled.
Right. And they happen right after the Olympics. So stay tuned.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
That's the other thing is, like, how do you remind people that, like, there is a fantastic slate of competitions coming your way right after the Olympics, and there is all of the sort of national pride, there's all of the stories, all of the reasons we all love sports, which is the connection, the human connection to watching someone give absolutely everything they've got. So with that, I cannot imagine that trying to make it to Milan next year is an easy task, because Paris snowboarding has just exploded in recent years. Yep. So how are you staying on the top of your game? How are you giving yourself the best chance to make some history and become, so it's the first woman with 4 Paralympic gold medals in snowboarding is what you would be?
Yep.
Okay, so how are you setting yourself up 1 year out from the Paralympics? What are you doing?
Well, it would also be the first person in general, because no man has 4 golds either.
Let's go. Okay. We like that.
Honestly, I've kind of just this goes back to the perfectionist. I've allowed myself to not be perfect in other areas of my life. I'm on snow at least 4 days a week for multiple hours, and I'm in the gym, and that takes up the majority of my day. If I can create content, beautiful. If I can help out more with culture, beautiful. But I'm also not filling up my plate to the point that it's going to take away from my main objective and my main priority, which is snowboarding, which is hard. It's so hard.
You are an elite athlete. I know it's hard because there's so many things that we love doing, right? And I think that's the part that's hard. And like, it was something I was even like kind of hit in the face with here at the beginning of doing this season of the PowHERful, is like, I feel like I have to believe in myself in this way for other people to see it in me. You know, it's like you have to sell out for yourself and whatever it is you've decided to do for other people to even have a chance at believing that they can see you do it.
Ooh, I love that.
Yeah, girl, I've been journaling too, okay? We are just a week and a half in to 2025, and we're going to be different this year. This is our year. So the other thing that I'm so curious about, you talk about journaling and you talk about meditation. What is the everyday habit that you feel like has helped you become the best version of yourself as a snowboarder, as a mom, as a partner, and as somebody who is trying to leave this world just a little bit better than she found it, while also being a whole human and learning in the process?
Yeah. Oh, great. So multiple things, I guess, and they kind of rotate, but I would say these are like the 3 trustees that I keep coming back to. I wake up earlier than my family so that I have time to just like mentally prepare. That's something I know within myself. I have a much better day. The second is I block out my social media. So I have an app on my phone, and it won't let me in an hour after I wake up, and then I have it set when my kids are home, like I can't get into it. And if I do need to get into it, I have to sit there and take a deep breath. It has like a timer.
Oh.
Yeah, so that helps. So that kind of keeps me away from like phone addiction territory, where I have definitely landed before. And then the third thing is journaling. Like and sometimes it's on a scrap piece of paper in my notes app, but if I notice thoughts like are coming at me way too quickly, I know it's time that I need to sit down and I need to write and need to process. And actually probably do that every day, but it's not every day that I sit down and like do a long journaling session. But that does happen frequently, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I love that. And those are 3 things that I think, well, first off, what's the app called? We don't, no gatekeeping on this podcast.
Yeah,
Tell me what that is.
One sec, like one SEC. I've used it for, I think they just told me I was coming up on my year anniversary. And I love it.
So look at this resolution from 2024 that we kept. Let's celebrate resolutions kept. So now we are going to transition into our next segment of the podcast. This next section is called What Are You Sipping On? It is brought to you by the Sports Bra. It is the very first women's sports bar in the entire world in Portland, Oregon. And so the week of your episode that we debut, it is going to have a drink called the Brenna. It can be a cocktail or mocktail of your choice. So Brenna, we want to know, what are you sipping on?
Oh man, this is tricky. I would say, and this was my first go-to drink when I turned 21, and I've been watching a lot of Sex and the City, so I'm going to say a Cosmopolitan.
Yes, we love a Cosmopolitan and a little bit of Carrie Bradshaw in there. That's a little bit of her ferocity in our everyday lives is a good thing.
It is, yeah.
Very good thing. Next up, we have Rapid Fire, which I think this will suit you very well. It never suits me because I always want to know, like I'll ask the question and then I want to know why you have the answer that you want. Like
I get that.
I'm like a kitten with a yarn. I can't keep it up. But we're going to do it. This is my 2025 revolution.
We got this.
Resolution. Okay. Rapid Fire. Powered up. It is coffee or tea?
Oh, coffee.
Favorite ice cream flavor?
Mint chocolate chip.
Go-to meal before or after snowboarding?
Oatmeal before. It's not good. I don't like it, but I do it. Oatmeal every time.
It's not good. I don't like it.
I don't like it. I don't, but I do it every time.
Okay, so if you have oatmeal suggestions that are better than what Brenna's eating right now, put them in the notes of this episode. Tag us on social. We want to know. Because we have a goal. We have 2026 to get to.
Yes, so exactly.
We need to like our breakfasts. Are you early to bed or early to rise or late to bed?
I wake up early, but I don't want to. I want to go to bed late and wake up late, but I don't do that. I'm sorry. I know we're supposed to be rapid here.
I thought you were going to be better at this than I was going to be.
I need context always.
Same. Okay. So I'll allow you a little bit of context with this question. Where's the favorite place that your sport has taken you?
Ooh. Okay, well, I would say Japan, but I didn't compete in Japan. I competed in Korea, but we went to Japan and I loved it.
Works for me.
Yeah.
Okay. Were you snowboarding or it was like a little vacay after?
No. Well, it was a vacay after, but we went snowboarding. Also, second coolest place that I went snowboarding was in Lesotho, Africa. Sorry, that wasn't the question.
That's incredible.
Yeah, so there's a tiny little ski hill in like the middle of South Africa, and we went, and it was really cool.
Oh, that's amazing. I love South Africa. That is one of my favorite places that my job has ever taken me. If you were not a Paralympic snowboarder, what sport would you want to be a Paralympic or Olympic athlete in?
Well, I mean, gymnastics, of course.
Yeah, I know. Same.
If it were Paralympic, well, I'm going to manifest it for them because it's not in the Paralympics yet. It would be surfing.
Yes. Okay. So we have talked a lot about Paralympic surfing on the pod because I do a lot of surf coverage. And so it doesn't sound like it's going to happen for LA 2028, but 2032, we are pushing. We are finding a way to get parasurfing in because it's so incredible. It's
cool.
Unbelievable. Yeah. In the meantime, if you want to go surfing, you just let me know. Okay. And then what's your favorite dessert?
A pedophore. It's, I don't know. They have them in Louisiana and they're these tiny little almond cakes and they've got like syrup. It's not like syrup. It's like hard syrup. And they've got like a simple syrup on the bottom. They're so good. They're almond flavored cakes.
Yeah.
So good. It's my favorite.
Oh, that sounds delicious.
I think it's French.
Yeah, I think it is actually. Sweet. We'll have to try that. Tell me the story of the wildest mishap you have ever had while on a snowboard.
Oh, well, last year I was riding with my team in Utah and I came around this corner and we were like going really fast. We were flat basing, just kind of like racing. and there's this corner and it goes down and then up, and it kind of G's you out normally, which is like kind of fun, a part of it. But it broke my prosthetic leg. Like it snapped my socket off. So thankfully I did not get hurt. I was on on my heels. So I just kind of like sat down and like slid out for a long while. And then ski patrol had to come because I couldn't put it back together. I have a video on my Instagram.
Oh my gosh. We will put it with this podcast because that's wild.
It was insane. Like it was actually insane.
Oh my gosh. And you weren't like hurt?
No, thankfully. I mean,
okay.
I could have easily been very hurt if it happened in any other situation, but
yeah.
But because I didn't get hurt, it was hilarious.
Yeah, fair enough. And then what is the one thing that you want people to know about either you, Brenna Huckaby, the person? Actually, that's the question. What is the one thing that you want people to know about you, Brenna Huckaby, the person, that they can't necessarily get or that you want to leave them with?
Ooh, that's tough. I think I'm just a normal person. Like I'm so freaking normal that like, please don't put me on a pedestal because I am just like you. I promise.
I love it. And actually, you're much funnier than I am, for the record. If you don't believe me, go to her social media. It is, I kid you not, Brenna, I was dying laughing at like multiple different videos. And then the last question, this is the PowHERful Podcast, and we are all about talking about PowHERful women and what they are doing to change their sport, leave this world a little bit better place. So Brenna, what does PowHERful mean to you?
It means showing up as your most authentic and relatable and just real self because you know that you have value and you have worth.
Wow.
Yeah. Something like that, you know?
If that doesn't hit you right where it needs to, because that's a very good reminder for me personally. So Brenna, thank you so much for taking the time to join us on the PowHERful Podcast. I'm honored to have you a part of season 2. I cannot wait to continue to follow you on social media and the rest of your career and your life as a mom and raising some beautiful kiddos into this world. I think it's going to be just so fun, and we're so grateful that you took the time.
Yay, thank you so much for having me. This was awesome.
This is a reminder to check us out every Tuesday, everywhere you get your podcasts. And if you really enjoy this and don't want to miss an episode, be sure to hit that subscribe button.